Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon. Right? It's about 1 Central, 11 my time. I'm here in Tucson, Arizona. You're here for the Accountant Best Practices and Automation in QuickBooks Online. So here are the topics for today. Platform alignment, there's just a couple slides, right? Got one on some metrics and some numbers, percentages to see on growth of QBO, and that's about it. Most of the time we're going to be in product. We're going to look at QBOA, QuickBooks Online Accountant, which is the firm platform. That's where you manage your team and invite staff to access the file. And a few other things in QBOA it's important to know, including the new work feature. Depending on the size of your firm, this might be a great task management file sharing platform for yourself. So we'll look at that too. Navigation and browser productivity tips, we'll look at that in a client QBO file. You know, how do you have open tabs, etc., or multiple reports open at the same time. How you customize, save, and share reports. We'll look at bank feeds, and then accountant tools. Now, the accountant tools I'll probably be going in throughout the presentation, and then we'll look at recurring transactions, so some automation, which really is bank rules, recurring transactions, and QuickBooks payments. We'll look at those. Now, bill pay I don't have active. However, I will show you some slides. That's something that your client would sign up, but we'll go over that towards the end. And again, any questions, please use the question box. I will be pausing to answer those, okay? But hopefully you guys are able to hear me well, see my screen. Again, the recording's going, and let's roll on. So, new businesses to Intuit. Purchasing an accounting software package. 70% plus of new users are choosing QB over desktop. I mean, if you look, that's all our marketing, most of our development dollars, everything's going there, right? Still have desktop, still committing to that for, as far as I know, ever. But obviously new users are doing QBO. From Q3 FY17 results, those are the last ones I can mention as, you know, through April 30th. 16% revenue uptick, 2.2 million subscribers worldwide, mostly in the U.S. Probably have, a couple 100,000 overseas, but mostly are in the U.S. And what these numbers mean to me, is you are going to get more clients asking or interested about QBO. So even if you're a staunch defender of desktop, which is great, I grew up on desktop as well, you want to pick a couple, 3 people in the firm to be adept at QuickBooks Online, to bring in those clients as well, because they lead to tax revenue and other type advisory service revenue too. Right? I mean, who cares where the trial balance report's coming from, right? Desktop or QBO. So it's my contention is that you're going to get more clients coming from QBO and maybe not even switchers from desktop. You're going to have both desktop and QBO, client base as you do today. But with the growth, you should see growth as well. Now, why the cloud? This is a lot of these things are obvious, but let's just run through them real quick and then we'll dive into QBOA. Improve collaboration, and not just with you and the client. It's one single ledger in the cloud, and you can just kind of sign in and do your adjustments or run your reports and then leave and move on to the next one, but also collaboration within the firm. Remember, there are 2 accountant slots in the Manage User window, as you probably know, in a QBO client file, but you only need one for the accounting firm because all the staff in the firm are going to be accessing that client file, assuming you've checked that off for them to access, through QuickBooks Online Accountant. So that's the beauty of that. Totally free for the firm unless you are paying for the client subscription through wholesale billing. It's accessible anywhere, no transfer of data files, which is what I like, probably the best, and VeriSign secured. Right? Same type of security that a big bank would use, and it's always up to date. You don't have to download maintenance releases. Right? So, and then there's apps. If you're concerned about, well, my client really needs Premier Contractor or manufacturing wholesaler, they need to be on Enterprise with advanced inventory, but they want to go mobile, so I guess I have to do Enterprise hosted. That's not necessarily the case. So save a bunch of money, QBO Plus with, say, SOS inventory. So ask your account manager about this, because you'll have, I know most of your clients are probably not in the heavy inventory job costing niche, or some of the gaps that features that just aren't in QBO at this time. But ask your account manager about, well, I do have this client and they want to do this, this, and this, but QBO doesn't support this yet. Let's say like sales order workflow or price levels or something like that. There are plenty of third-party apps that still, it's much more affordable, QBO plus an app versus, say, Enterprise with advanced inventory. Okay. And apps.com is where you'll find out tons of information regarding that. All right, let's look at QBOA. We're going to look at managing clients, inviting staff, and assigning permissions is a new permission that's worth mentioning. Pro Advisor training certification, where you go for that. Wholesale billing, real quick, and then we'll look at the work feature and we'll come back. So, by the way, this site I wanted to show you, QuickBooksProductVideos.homestead.com. Again, hopefully you guys are seeing my screen. I'm not hearing anything about that, so that's good. I'm putting this in the chat area. Tons of related links. The matrix I was talking about, CPE accountant training, things like that, the QBO blog, apps.com, so converting from desktop to QBO. So all this here, including training for your clients. These two are great, particularly the real-world training. And then, of course, you have your own specific QBO, QBOA. And you can find it by just doing Control-F and searching what you're looking for, you know, and there you go, learn about bank feeds, etc. So check, definitely for that, there is our product video site. So that's in the chat room. Now, let me go into my QBOA. And I am using Google Chrome because I find that it's optimized, not that Chrome is optimized for QBO, but we optimized QBO for Chrome. I will be maybe showing briefly the QuickBooks Online Windows app, right? So there's that too. But I'm in my QuickBooks Online Accountant, and you know, you have in the left Clients Team, Pro Advisor Work. Yes, we give you a free file. If you're not using that file yet for your real books, do not use it as a practice or a sandbox or playground, right? Use the QBO sample file, which you can find under the gear icon, Sample Company. Okay, use that for like lunch and learns or something, or with a real client file if you're working with that client. But the Your Books file, this is a free QBO Plus file we give to the firm, and just wait until you're really going to use this, right? Because the clients, your customers are a mirror image of the clients that you have in QBOA. So here I have all of my QBO clients, and it's all QBO. Now I do have a desktop client, but I'm not linked to the file. I just put it in here because I invoice them too out of here, and I can sign projects or tasks to them and things like that as well. However, the rest, they all have this QB icon here because they have a subscription. You can mouse over and see what subscription level there are. For those who don't know, you have basically 3 levels of QBO, Simple, Start, Essentials, and Plus. Most of your clients will be on Essentials or Plus, I believe, particularly in the U.S. clients. And if you've done class tracking or something like that, or need inventory or two-sided items, budgeting, you're going to need Plus anyway. Right? Essentials is up to 3 users, but it has just core accounting, but Plus is where you have more, definitely akin to QuickBooks Pro features. And then Simple Start, you'll just have a couple clients on that. No accounts payable tracking in Simple Start, no trial balance report, no general ledger report, those types of things. So really Essentials and Plus is when that starts kicking in. And also who last signed in. That'll show you that and the date they signed in. So we'll go over this dashboard in a sec. There is a self-employed product for your Schedule C clients. It is online. It's basically a bank and credit card feed. And there's like 3 reports. You can create an invoice, but it doesn't track AR. So that's QuickBooks Self-Employed. So that's not really considered part of QBO or the QBO lineup, even though it is online. But really, most of your clients are going to be in Essentials and Plus. Now, the first thing I like to show in QBOA is team. Right? The staff collaboration is key. You don't all have to have a QBOA. You can have one firm QuickBooks Online accountant and all your clients in there. And by the way, our support team can help you consolidate if you have multiple QuickBooks Online accountant realms. That's something we can help with, or you can do it manually. Anyway, but what I like about the QBOA is that I can have one for the firm, and all my staff are invited as team members. And I can choose what clients they see when they log in. Because everybody that's accessing QBO is going to QBO.intuit.com. Right? They're going to QBO.intuit.com, but based on the email address, your user ID and password that you're signing in, that drives you to either a firm QBOA, which is what we're talking about today, or you're going in as a client and they're just going to QBO. Okay? Your client wouldn't really see this part. This is just for us. So if I show Ray here, for example, it's her own unique emails. When she goes to QBO.intuit.com, she chooses Clean Books LLC, and she's in the firm QBOA. And if I go to Firm Administration and Books, when I'm setting her up, I have her as a very basic user. I mean, this is great for your tax staff coming in for 4 months of the year, or some of you just don't want a lot of administrative things outside of just accessing the clients and doing the work you want them to do. So Ray, for example, can do no administrative stuff. Can't add QBO subscriptions, cannot add other staff, cannot access the Your Books file, or manage clients. Now I could, if I choose this to yes, she'd have the ability to add a client subscription, which we'll be looking at briefly soon. But I'm just going to leave her to no because I just want her to access these particular clients, right? I think when she comes in, she sees, 9 or 10 clients, right? And that's it, and no administrative duties. So, or you can have someone have full access. I have staff that have full access, can do a lot of administrative stuff, including seeing the firm credit card or adding things to wholesale billing. Now, interestingly enough, when Ray goes in, and she'll come in through Firefox. So pretend Ray's coming in from some other location or the next office over through Firefox. Look at the difference between what she sees, right? So she has clients too, and she has the 9 clients I gave her access to. Now, when she goes into Planopause, which is where we'll be today in this file for the rest of the time, she is like a company admin. It's a special type of company admin, but she can do anything in the client file. I can't really restrict her from features in the client file per se, not at this time. But I can keep her out of certain clients. Right? So she sees these 9, but she has no team. And if you notice in mine, in the background, I have the ability to add a client. She has none of that either. Nor does she see the Your Books file. But she can go into the work, which we'll be looking at real soon, to see her tasks and create projects and do some file sharing with clients. And of course, every staff member has their opportunity to become a pro advisor. And that's the free pro advisor with QuickBooks Online. I might as well go in there now, right, as me. But just so you know, you can restrict your staff, and that was the point of that. So Ray, we're going to move on from Ray now, and I'm just going back in as just the full QBOA person. And I can see, I'm a gold level, right, and I need to get certified in QBO, and there's a bunch of stuff here, or advanced certified. I can create a profile to publish on the Find a Pro Advisor website. Of course, I need to be certified in QuickBooks Online first. There's training, not only for me, but for my clients as well. And I can also link, if I want to, connect accounts with my desktop Pro Advisor membership, right? Because I'm actually paying for that one. And I get, Premier and Enterprise Accountant, right? I download that every year, just like probably many of you do. So I can manage all of my Pro Advisor membership from the Pro Advisor tab within QBOA. And there's a bunch of discounts too. I wanted to mention discounts for you, to be members of a QBOA. You get a free self-employed, discounts on checks and supplies you order, a lot of different stuff, as well as apps. There's a special offer on third-party apps, which I mentioned, apps.com. A lot of apps give affiliations with Pro Advisors, but there are some free apps that you get. HubDoc, Fathom, Receipt Bank, and T-Sheets all have like their own app offers for the Your Books file of the firm. So consider that as well. Typically, when you start to use apps, you're more likely and more inclined to encourage them to your clients that also need that type of functionality as well, right? The QBO just might not offer. So apps is the thing we won't spend tons of time on today. We do spend some of it on kind of high level and the certification. If you do the QuickBooks Online certification webinar, it's actually going on right now, but we do that weekly or go to one of the live events. We will mention apps, but if you go to apps.com or talk to your account manager, that's where you can really get a little deeper on that. So Pro Advisor, team, the client dashboard we'll come back to. Work, that's new. You probably noticed it. Where you can just click from QuickBooks and look at all of the possible tasks I have. Running payroll, reviewing unaccepted transactions in the bank feed, which we'll look at in about 10 minutes, things like that. You can turn off the QBO feed coming in, and I can just, create projects, This is really just task management. It's not full-on practice management, but I can see where we're going. But you're creating projects, and I'll show you the file share piece as well. Say you have to do like particular reporting, financials or whatever for the month or something. Choose the particular client, choose when it's due by, 21st, and assign to me or assign to some other staff member, like Ryan could be doing it, so when he logs in, he would see this. Put in the details. I could even add subtasks. Now, this is not meant to replace, an existing practice management software you have. However, if you're using like Excel or email or Outlook to track your tasks within the firm, definitely. I mean, you should take advantage here, even G Sheets, right? So you can create your projects, click Save, and you're basically tracking status of it. So we'll say Ryan's in progress and who it's assigned to, which you can change, or the particular date range if you want to change that as well. And it will just list all of your tasks. I can click into the list view as well and show completed items just so you can see what I've been up to. So a lot of stuff is done. And I'm just tracking the work I'm doing and other staff are doing on our clients. Okay. There's no recurring tasks yet, but I can duplicate tasks if I want to. And I can filter by specific clients, staff, or between the projects or requests. Now, requests is a feature we used to have, but then didn't have it and then brought it back. That's the file share. I think that's the cool one, where I can click Create Client Request and say, need, payroll form, W-4 for the new employee, or whatever it would be. Need 1098, need a bank statement, although typically you're doing the bank feed, so you wouldn't need that so much, but maybe it's a credit union that's not supported and they don't want to do the web connect, so, give me the statement for last month. Anyway, I can choose Planet Pause, and I can either notify the client by email, which is probably typical because they're probably not in QBO all the time. I could add a document like a blank one in case they might not know what the W-4 is or something like that, right? And you can publish to the client QuickBooks. That literally is going to send a request to their file. You initiate the file sharing, right? Now let's dive into a client file real quick as them. So Chrome, I'm going to get a couple birds here, right? With one stone. And sorry for bird fans. I know it's a terrible analogy, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. Chrome has multiple people, okay, and I think that's why I benefit for QBO as well. And we'll go over this more in about, I don't know, a few minutes regarding navigation. But I can create people in Chrome to use for my daily stuff, and then I isolate my QBO work. I usually use these two Chrome people, for all things QuickBooks Online. Now this allows me to be in multiple QBO files with the same login, but it also just allows me to clear the cache just for those particular Chrome instances. So in this blonde-haired guy thing, I'm just in the QBO client, right? There's no accountant up here. I'm just straight into QBO as a client would be, right? Now you'll notice in the left, and we'll go over this a little more with navigation, but there's this My Accountant tab. You probably saw this recently. This is where the client will see your request to share files or talk to them, right? So July 15th, right? I mean, I've done a lot of requests for this particular client, but we just initiated one, right, on this webinar. You saw me create the request, need payroll for the W-4 form for this employee. So your client, next time they come in, they'll go to My Accountant, or maybe I notified them by email, so they log into QBO like later tonight or tomorrow morning. They click on here, and they can then add a document and upload it, from, their hard drive. And they can even ask me a question. It's going to upload the document. If you might already have your portal or sharing thing. That's great. Not meant to replace, but it's an option. And he's saying, hope this is correct form, right? Doesn't spell well, but anyway, I'll even see that message, right? So we'll come back to navigating in a sec, but if I go and I refresh QBOA, we'll see the document was uploaded. So the the work functionality, right? I have a little one here next to the attachment, and there's a message, so I can click into it, and I can see the document as well as the comment, right? And you can talk back and forth. It's not meant to be instant message, right? But it's, they'll see it tomorrow, I'll see it today, I'll send it today, etc. So work does file sharing as well as the ability to manage tasks and assign them to the team members. Okay, one more thing about the dashboard we'll dive in. I do see a question. If you're a ProAdvisor Advanced, you need to update yearly ProAdvisor Basic Cert. Yes, you still need to take the annual certification if you're advanced. And you want to take it even as you're just like I am. I'm not advanced certified. I lack some of the skill set for the ratio portion. And the job cost and payroll section is quite challenging for sure. It's a robust exam, and it's always impressive to the people that are able to pass it, but I was not one. Anyway, be that as it may, yes, you still want to keep up your certification, and then I believe for the advanced, there's some like advanced credit training. You don't have to go through and recertify, obviously, for the advanced. You would just do the basic, and then there's some other things you have to go through, but it's pretty nominal. I think the big thing is we really are happy that you got advanced certified, because it's probably a week investment of your life, a good week anyway. It could take like 30 to 40 hours to get advanced certified. Maybe for you it was different, but That's what I've heard. So we don't try to pile on more stuff really, but you need to at least be certified, and I think there's some continuing education credits you need as well, but I'm not really sure. Okay, but thanks for that question. So, one more thing about the dashboard, a couple things. Adding a client. When you click Add Client, right, this is where you'd add a new client. You have to put in an email now. That's been that way for several months now. Before you didn't, but now you do. Typically, you'll know the email of your client, but if you don't, put in your own, and then just don't make yourself master admin, and when they accept, the master admin will flip to them, and you'll just be the accountant user automatically. Now, there's a couple things to point here. Wholesale versus direct billed, right? So if it's a plus subscription for my client, and forget about payroll for now, the wholesale is going to be 50% off for life, regardless of what it is on retail, right? If the client pays, this is just for someone who's here today, because there's a lot of people here today who just doesn't happen to know this. Yes, the client can pay, and a lot of firms will have both, will support both billing options. Firm will pay, because it's like the cheapest way to get QuickBooks Online, and a lot of firms are following the kind of value billing model that's trending now, the firm of the future type approach where you offer a couple, 3 different service packages to your clients and you roll in the QuickBooks Online fee. Yeah. So there's that. So wholesale billing is becoming more popular because it's 50% off for life, including for the payroll, or the direct discount, which is just the client paying. They'll get a 30 or 40% off for the first year, but then it goes back to retail. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Those are mainly the things I wanted to show you in adding a client. I'm sure you've already done that at this point, the wholesale billing. And then finally, with the dashboard itself, a couple questions I get asked on a lot. The quickest way to access is to click the QB icon. That's how we're going to go in. When you drill into a client, I mean, just to see some balances, we did add a new note field that you can pin, so that might be helpful. I mean, you had notes before, it was more up here, but now we have notes as its own tab. Bookkeeping info, so you can keep a track on reconciliations and account balances. To me, this is like the that Accountant Center in desktop, right? Similar. And then shared documents. Here's where I'd go to see the shared documents my client uploaded with me, right? And some tax info. Now, what if the client is no longer a client of yours? How do you get rid of them? You just click the drop-down arrow and make them inactive. So this is where you go to make them inactive. And when you edit the client, because you want to change team access, like in a faster way than having to go through all the staff, I mean, don't do that. Like, edit the client, click on team access, check on or off. But if you happen to change this for your view or your staff's view, this does not actually update the QBO sub itself. All right, so there's that as well. Okay, let's dive into a client file. Those are really the main things with QBOA. I don't see any other questions there. Again, you heard my qualification about the Your Books file. Don't use it till you're really going to use it for real. Fair enough? All right, I'm going to go into Planet Pause. Again, you can go in here or click the drop down. As you do, we'll go into Pause. We're going to do that in the payments file today. All right, kind of gone through QBOA, spent a little time on work. Let's go real quickly. I'm not going to blow this up just because I want to go back and forth quickly, but we are going to do navigation. Open multiple windows. How do you create bookmarks or even a folder in the bookmarks bar? Multiple companies at the same time. We already knocked that out, right? That's just by creating multiple Chrome users, or people as they call them, and then we'll look at the Windows app briefly. We'll go dive into bank feeds. Okay, navigation, right? You might have noticed that all of your client files that were part of QBOA have an updated left-hand panel. Now, some QBOA users have had this left-hand panel updated since December 15th of 2016, but we suppressed it for QBOA, right? So recently, though, you will have seen, instead of home, customers, vendors, payroll reports, taxes are the same, but there was transactions, right? But now you have dashboard, which would be the home page, right? And then sales is going to be, what we're trying to do is consolidate related places in one area. So you don't have to go to the gear icon to go to products and services, right? So sales has the sales transaction window, which used to be buried under transactions. I way like it that I can go to customers as well from the same panel and or page, and then go to products and services list, right? So that's kind of what we're doing. Expenses will have, vendors and your expense transactions, where you can also create transactions as well. Projects, I'll mention at the end. It's just kind of a beta feature in QB Labs. It's not full-on job costing, but it is tracking, profitability projects. So it might come in handy, but we won't be looking at that today. But maybe we'll add it when it really becomes more like true job costing. Payroll reports we'll look at. Now, your chart of accounts and reconcile, that's in accounting. So you'll see accounting on the left. And then the My Accountant we've already gone over. You see it too, but remember that's the place your client goes to see your requests to share documents back to QBOA. Right, so that should always be at the bottom. And then your client, when you're in as a client, will have apps. We don't have that visibility yet. But so accounting is where chart of accounts is and reconcile. It used to be transactions, chart of accounts, right? So those are the main things. Banking, we'll look at that. That's bank feeds and bank rules. That's important. I got some stuff I got to do anyway, so I might as well do it during this webinar. Now, so you have the left-hand panel. Fair enough. You guys got this Accountant Toolbox. The first 4 tools your client would not have. This is some stuff you'll recognize from either Premier or Premier level, like the voided deleted transaction report, or the batch or classify, right? So we took that from the client data review in your QuickBooks Account Edition. So I can reclassify transactions. If I have a bunch that are uncategorized, I can move them to the appropriate account. I mean, that's a good tool to have. It's like the most popular tool of the CDR in desktop. When you're working with your QBA and supporting your clients that are on Pro and Premier, per se, right? So there's that tool. Trial balance, we'll look at that towards the end. But it's a working trial balance. It really only is impactful yearly when you're doing the tax return and stuff. But there is books to tax integration. So I'm going to make a note to show you that a little bit later with ProConnect Tax Online. But the first thing I like to do when I come into a file is go to Report Tools. That's also under the briefcase because I can set the date range of, reporting. Any report that we open up from here on when I'm showing like how do you create multiple windows, I've set the default date range. This is the old Accountant home for QBOA for those that have been using QuickBooks Online Accountant for a while, when it used to be a separate web address to go to. So we still kept it, and you can set the default date range, etc. So all tools and reports should open to this. So the Accountant Toolbox, right? There are some stuff under here. Quick way to get the reconcile. Not that your clients can't use this either. I mean, they don't see the toolbox, but they have access to these other things. It's just that we wanted to consolidate, accountant-related features or modules under one menu, kind of like you have the accountant menu in your desktop product. So it's the briefcase. So you have the left-hand panel. You have the briefcase. This little hamburger icon. This closes about 3 inches on the left to give you a little more real estate. Some people like that. Go in and out of client files as you do, which we'll be doing a little later. And then the other main access points to QBO. The search field, when you left-click on it, shows you the last transactions or reports you open. You can get to a report from here if you're not sure where, like, the statement of cash flow is or something. You just type it and click it, and it'll bring you to the report. Next to that is the plus sign and then the gear icon. Right? Plus sign used to be dead center in the top of QBO, but we moved it about 8 inches to the right. This is the quickest way to get to all the transactions related by customer, vendor, employee, and you can use time if you're in Essentials and Plus. Essentials now supports time activity as well. You can use time without payroll. If you see a little up arrow, it means you just don't have it yet. And then you have some other stuff. Here's journal entry, right? Now, what if I want to have multiple windows? And we'll talk about the gear icon in a sec, but that's operational stuff, right? That little sprocket icon to the right. Now, I have a report open. Let's say I want to do a journal entry too. You can right-click, open a new tab, right? And that's going to open up a journal entry. If we go to reports, and again, you could go right to accountant reports under here, or I can go to reports, all reports, or what have you. I just find that accountant reports has most of the reports you want because this is where you'll find the trial balance and the general ledger and things like that. But a P&L balance sheet I can find under all reports, business overview as well. So let's say I want a P&L open, which I have, and I see it opens to last month in cash basis, and we'll say previous period percent change. And let's just look at that, and maybe year-to-date percent, year-to-date. Run the report. So you have this, and now, I want to drill down in this cost of goods sold for whatever reason. This is not what I was expecting it to be, because you guys are really good at tracking trends and remembering stuff from the last time you're in a report, so things will just look odd to you where I might not think they're odd from my perspective, but they'll look odd to you and you'll go in. But you don't want to lose your place or the changes you might have made to the report or whatever. I haven't even saved the customizations yet in this report. I mean, we'll look at saving customizations, aka memorize reports, in here in a second, but before I drill in, and so, I don't want to hit the back button and all that stuff. You should not be hitting the back button. I'm going to right-click on the tab I'm on and choose Duplicate. Duplicate. That's why I like Chrome. Firefox is a little different. I know IE does the same too. But if I click Duplicate, right, now I'm going to have, it's going to just bring me to another P&L, same kind of things, but now I could drill down to the transaction detail report. Right? And notice I have a journal entry open as well. So you can do that all day long. You can right-click and duplicate these tabs. Or I could go to the briefcase and go to New Window. That does the same thing. And now I can go into like a balance sheet, or I like the sales by customer detail for customizing demo because there's a lot more columns and stuff. Anyway, I have 4 different tabs open in one file. So you don't have to be locked into one page. And if this journal entry, I might move it over to another monitor. Now I have the journal entry over here. And it's really easy to move it back and rearrange the tabs how you want them, etc. So that's how you have multiple tabs open in QuickBooks Online. It's still not a view open window list, but it's what you're going to get online, right, to have a similar at least behavior or workflow. Now, the one thing to call out, though, is that transactions you might have open, because these windows aren't really connected. They're in the same file. The tabs aren't really connected. They're in the same file, of course, looking at the right data for this file. However, if I have a check open or a bill or something like that, like if I go to the plus sign and right-click on check and open a new tab, and we'll just go to a check right now as it's opening. And I'll look at that question. I see it. Give me 1 second. And by the way, the little clock in the upper left, I usually do it with a journal entry because you can do more than one ARAP in a journal entry. I just haven't this time around, but you can do more than one accounts receivable, accounts payable line in journal entries in QBO. There's just no restriction. And you don't have to be the accountant to do that. It's just how it is. It's just how it was designed. That's because I believe the source and target rules are a little different in QBO than desktop. In desktop, the top line of a journal entry is source or summary. The rest is target or detail. In QBO, all lines of a journal entry are target. But don't worry about that. That's not really that important. It might come up on the QBO cert exam, but mostly on the advanced cert, so don't even worry about it. Anyway, one of you guys might care or find it interesting. That's my theory on why you can do more than one ARAP in journal entry in QBO. Anyway, let's say this check I just created was to impact, obviously, the balance sheet I have open and the P&Ls, right? This profit and loss report won't see that check until you refresh the window. So if you are doing the multiple tab thing, just remember, before I go ahead and email or print out this report, so that my client doesn't call me and say, hey, I don't notice any difference from last month, right? Make sure you hit F5 on your keyboard or hit the refresh icon so that it picks up the data entered from the other tabs, okay? So let's see here. You have the Pay Bills Online option in the Accountant Toolbox. How do we get it? That actually, I have it under the plus sign. There's several different access points. The Spinny Plus will have it, Pay Bills Online. And you shouldn't really have it under here per se, but you'll see it there. You'll also see it in the expense window in the upper right, Pay Bills Online, and the vendor list, Pay Bills Online. And then finally, one other place you will see it, and this is just the access points, would be under the gear icon, right? That's where operational things. So I'm glad you asked that because I was going to totally blow past the gear icon today. This is where your operational things are, right? So you have left-hand panel, dashboard, plus sign, search, gear. That's about it. If you don't see it in them, maybe it's a preference. Go to Accountant Settings and turn it on. And if that's not it, then it's probably just not in QBO. Right? So bill pay, you'll have it as its own tab. Now, you're not going to sign up for it for the client. Your client is. It has to be the bank owner because we asked a bunch of credit-related questions. It is powered by Bill.com, and I'll show you some slides at the end. And accountant users aren't able to really use it right now because you're not that type of a company admin. So your client, if you wanted to use it or have a staff actually pay bills online for your client, because that's the service you have set up for them, you have to have the client invite that staff member as a company admin, in the manage user window. So it's really for your client right now, but I believe that the firm will be able to actually use it too eventually. Now you can add it to your books file for sure. Okay. All right. So next, so that the only other thing to mention is for navigation. So we've gone over the navigation, we've gone over the multiple tabs. I'm going to skip the Windows app, but you can download it. Next time you go to sign into QBO, click to download it on the left, and that just offers these. Auto refresh, so when you book a check, it updates the other tabs that are open. Windows open as their own, and drop-down menus. It might be the Windows app, has a purpose. I personally would never use it. I'm happy using Chrome, and I've supported both platforms, just like you might be as well. But a client or a staff coming from just full-on desktop for years, the Windows app definitely is something that's super helpful. So you can download it right when you go to sign into qbo.intuit.com. I'll actually show you. When I sign out, you will see it in the left. Download it free. So it also allows me to stay signed in, which is nice. So once I'm signed in, I can stay signed in. Okay. Let's see here. We are going to go to bank feeds next. And then we're going to do some automation. We've kind of gone over the accountant tools already, and then we'll end with the bill pay, some slides for it. Pricing, yeah, it's Bill.com. It's powered by Bill.com. It's just a stripped-down version. I have some slides that differentiate it, so if you guys just wait about 20 minutes, I'll show you. That'll be the last thing I show. But it's $10 a month, and for e-checks or ACH is 49 cents. And then for actually a mailed check is $1.49. Okay, so that's the pricing. The regular Bill.com is $29 a month, and they have their own fees for the same. I think they match them, but it's basically $10 a month. And I'll show you some slides so you know what it looks like. But again, the client has to do the signing up of this, and you're not really able to use it yourself at this time unless the client invites you as a full-on company admin to the upper manage user section. All right, bank feeds. This sort of starts the automation section. And 16,000 financial institutions, most are going to be a direct connection. Some are web connect where you upload data. When you search for a financial institution and click add account from either the home page or the banking page, you just put in the web address. It's usually the best, or click one of the popular ones there, like Chase or whatever. And then you're going to, again, your client's probably hooking this up. For things like payments, online bill pay, bank feeds, your client's probably hooking this up. Although for bank feed, and particularly rules, I'm a staunch believer in, firm believer in the accountant, the advisor setting up the bank rules. So garbage in, garbage out, etc. That's going to be critical, and I'll show you what I mean in a sec. So you can upload transactions manually or direct connect. Direct connect to the best. It literally will pull down the feed, whatever cleared yesterday, at some point after midnight. So today I should see some stuff cleared from yesterday. Sign in with a user ID and password. Let's hang on this page for a second. You choose the account you're connecting to, whether it's a credit card or a bank account. I've even seen people connect an investment account to it. Not that, QBO tracks investments like Mint, but if you use the appropriate account and transaction form, I don't see what the problem would be. In this case, I'm connecting to a credit card in this picture on the right, and it's going to default to 90 days of activity it's going to want to bring down during the first connection, just the first time you hook up. Now you can choose 0, 7, 30, or 90. If you're converting from desktop and you already did a bank rec and you just did, the June statement, right, and it's now July 13th, you might only bring down 7 days of data, or 30 and delete some of it. So it's really up to you, but mostly the question is, how do I get a longer period? What if I want a longer period? That's when you upload it. You can get a CSV file. A .qbo file is excellent to get and most popular because most banks have the .qbo from the Web Connect method in desktop. So you can get that and then upload whatever the bank gives you, right? So I know some firms who actually do only a manual upload instead of a direct connection because their gig is monthly. They go in and do bank rec. So they do the feed, the bank rec, and then financial reports, and that's part of their services that they do monthly. So they just get a file from the client and upload it. They share it through their portal, they get the CSV file or .qbo and upload it in and do the work. There's like 300 to 500 transactions, but with bank rules it still cuts down on time, etc. So there is direct connection, and then there's the web connection or upload. So we're going to go over the For Review tab, bank feed overview in general, matching, rules automation, and batch actions. Then we'll jump into recurring transactions and payments and end up with bill pay. Again, we've pretty much gone over the accountant tools. All right. Okay, so where do you find online banking, right? Banking on the left. Used to be transactions, banking, now it's just banking has its own banking and bank rules. Now remember, the file uploads over here, and there's a drop-down arrow where you can manage rules as well, or order checks if they're still using that. Here's where you'd add an account, but you can also add one from the home page or the dashboard. And I have two different bank cards. I have a Visa and I have a checking. Let's just look at the checking for now. And then within that, I have the For Review tab in QuickBooks and Excluded. Excluded are things that you want to delete out. We either didn't match them, or there's a duplicate we didn't match to, because we are going to want to match to transactions already in the register. But sometimes the date range from when it was cleared to when it was entered in the register is so far apart, we do not pick up the match. So you want to delete those out, or personal stuff that just shouldn't be in the 1120 file, like what's going on the form, right? So, etc. So you include that stuff, I'm sure, and you guys will have more scenarios than I can think of. In QuickBooks, the stuff already in QuickBooks. While I'm there, I just wanted to quickly show you, as it keeps track, these things are already in the register, so you can like drill in on them and get to the transaction. But if, with the bank rules, there's a way to automatically add to the register. I'll show you in a sec where you'd set that up. Be careful with that one. It's like any of the automation stuff I'm going to show you for the next 10 minutes. Let's, know your client as you do. How much automation can they handle, and when will it get away from you, where it's, spending more time cleaning up stuff as opposed to it being effective. So I think you guys make that call, and there's some settings we'll look at too that I think are important to consider that as well. But if this was like a personal thing, you can undo this stuff in a batch. That's what I like with QBO over the desktop online banking. There's several things. One is the auto direct connection feed, so I don't have to force the statement to come in or send for it. I can batch undo, batch modify, and batch delete. I can remove stuff out of here. Also, the desktop doesn't support. To fix stuff in desktop on bank feed, you usually have to go into the register. Right, so I can do a lot of stuff from this window. And anything that's blue is a breadcrumb. You drill on it, it'll bring you to the next level, which in this case would be the transaction. But in the For Review tab, you have two tabs. All, recognized. We are going to recognize stuff when rules are applied, or when there's a match to something already in the register. A couple sales receipts there, I got some insurance things. So all of these I could just kind of check off, batch action, accept. I mean, I want to see green. And sometimes you'll get some errors, maybe if I forget a payee or the transaction no longer belongs to that account, so I'll just kind of exit out for now or exclude it. Might do that as well. And then go back to the all, so I have 51 left, right? And now you're working these. Like I have FedEx, because the FedEx comes like every other day to pick up the shipping and send it out. So instead of me going in here and look, and there's the payee, and choosing like the appropriate account for shipping, receiving, etc., and doing a class or location, why don't I set up a rule? It's the whole point of a rule, really. So I will often come in here and look at the payee window and sort like A to Z. So some don't have payees, right? So you have to find it. And then figure out if I have a lot of the same payees I'm seeing, then I'll definitely want to go ahead and start creating, a rule. So for FedEx, it's just FedEx. Now I'm going to go to Manage Rules. Right? So go to Manage Rules, or I could click Bank Rules, click New Rule, and just call it FedEx. And it has to really match the description that it's coming in, or the details. So this would be for money out, for any of the following criteria. So the point I'm trying to make is use your imagination with rules, and I think it's about the predictable purchases. They're expense trending. If you're seeing stuff weekly or monthly, several times a month for something, create a rule for that. It doesn't have to be for purchases. It could be from payments or deposits they're receiving too. If you don't really have to work it per se, meaning you don't have to investigate, right, and it's something you can count on, create a rule for it. So I usually do bank text contains, or a lot of times I'll do description, but you could also do amount. Some people will do amount as well. Greater than is this account, less than is that. They might do multiple rules for the same vendor just to, and we just kind of stack rank it that way based on the order of the rule list. So some people will do that for Home Depot or Lowe's, or auto expense is a great idea. Less than $50 is fuel, more than 50 is repair or something. It's an expense or a debit or whatever. And I'm going to choose FedEx, which I don't think I have on the list. And you can quick type. I could have quick typed to see. Whoops. But I don't have, oh, I did. Okay, good. Category, I guess we could do, should have shipping and delivery expense, and I can even do some class tracking and location tracking and a default memo, right? Default memo to show up. Now, if you don't have to review it, this is where this checkbox automatically add to my books comes into play. So you might leverage that. But, you know, again, if you need to review it or if you don't want it in the register, although you can undo it, but it still requires you finding it in QuickBooks tab and undoing it. I mean, I just suggest hold off on the automation until you know it's something that you and the client are comfortable with in their workflow and process. So when I go ahead and click Save, I'm going to leave it so it's not automated now, and go to banking, you know, I'll see, you know, I have my FedEx here. So now I can check these three off and batch add them to the register or accept them. If it's a match, you're still accepting it in, so it's not duplicated. But those are the rules, and they can be really powerful. And if I go to in QuickBooks and look at the rules per se, let me see if I have them for Best Buy. You drill into the expense. You have breadcrumbs as well that you can follow. So online banking matches will show in the upper left. You click on that. Tells me it was a debit, $50, you know, debit card and Best Buy payment, manually added with the rule. If it was an automated thing where the rule applied based on the conditions and then the rule then automatically added it to the register, so then you're full on skipping the data entry part, period. It would say automatically added with rule. Yeah, when you change rules, good question. Are they retroactive? No, they're just going to be going forward because all the stuff already in the register, they're already in the register, right? So just be anything else coming in from then on will impact the rule. No, the rule will impact then going forward. But thank you for that question. So remember the file upload rules excluded for review. Again, I usually show the example of purchases, but the same could be said for payments and stuff and things that are coming in, and you can like click on it, and if you don't see the match or it doesn't find the match, there's always this find match bullet point. You click on it, and it'll look for the any invoices or payments or sales receipts that are there that would be a match to this, and you can choose however, like for example, you might get a deposit, right, that includes a bunch of different, is a payment for a bunch of different invoices. You can check off all the invoices up to the amount but not over, right? And sometimes that requires digging. I think the purchase side's a little easier to manage, I find, than payments coming in, and most of the rules I see are on the purchase side. But that's essentially the bank feed and rules themselves. Leverage them, and you might have a huge rule list too. You probably do. And the nice thing is you can export these rules because you might have a client in the same industry, so similar vendors are in the same location that use a similar vendors, so they would have similar rules to this client. You can actually import the rule list from another QBO file. And that's great. Like I suggest literally importing the rule list first before even connecting to the bank. So when it comes down, you'll have a bunch of stuff in the Recognize tab. This is a tip. Okay, cool. So other automation. Let's look at recurring transactions, like memorized transactions. And don't let me forget about the memorizing reports. That was important. I want to circle back on that to tie that off, to how you customize and share. But automation, keep an eye on that theme. Under the gear icon, your operational things, tools. Recurring transactions, AKA memorized transactions. You're doing it in desktop. You can do it in here too. And actually, I'm going to switch over to another client, payments. Because I'm logged in, I can just click the drop-down and go to another file. I don't have to sign out or anything. So we have QuickBooks Payments in QBO. We have it in desktop too, but auto debit from your client. You can do this too in the Your Books file, what I'm about to show you to set it up. Go to recurring transactions, but it's a cool trick to share with your clients because literally a recurring transaction supports almost every transaction type except the bill payment, a customer payment, or paycheck. You're probably doing this for journal entries for prepaids or period end stuff or whatever, or bills or checks, things like that. But also, you could do if the client has payments turned on, and because you might use the Your Books file as well, you could have payments turned on too. So this sales receipt for Chad Simpson, we have, he pays by ACH, and that's free, by the way. It takes 5 days to fund, but it's free. There's no fee, and QB Payments is free as well. So if I'm in no real hurry, I'm just automatically sending this sales receipt because I can automatically send the email out. He gets it every month on the 7th, right? And then I usually get paid by the 12th because I have his banking and routing number, and I checked off the box that I have a signed authorization. We did it over the phone, and that's totally SOX and PCI compliant now. So it'll show the last 4, which is nice, right? But then I'll get this, draft from his, or whatever you call it, the auto debit from his checking account using the banking and routing, and he gets a receipt. There's no AR. Don't have to worry about accounts receivable or when he's going to pay me. I mean, this is great for the firm too if you're using Your Books, and this is how they do it. You have these 3 different service levels you offer the client. You roll into QBO. You're doing a wholesale billing, and you have whatever $300-400 a month, and it just dings their bank account, right? It just takes 5 days to fund. The other option is invoicing too. Like I have an invoice here for Ryan. Of course, you're going to have invoicing as well. But the nice thing is that, yes, when this invoice is created automatically, because it's recurring for this amount, it'll automatically send the invoice. And it's an online invoice, meaning that Ryan can click Pay Now and pay me by credit card or bank transfer. Or I can just have him pay me by bank transfer. So it's really up to me and how I want. Even though payments is free, the credit card fees, there are some. But the ACH is totally free. Not only that, and this is also a setting in Accountant Settings, I can include any unbilled activity. So anytime I create an expense, a check, a time activity, a delayed charge, and tag Ryan, or the project, or the particular sub-customer under him, this $75 will then include whatever else so that I don't forget to charge them for other things I might have done on the side. So including unbilled charges is helpful. Another part of the automation, auto sending, things like that. And of course on the purchase side you can set up recurring checks and bills and things like that. Before I go into the reporting piece, I wanted to quickly go back to the pause file. We'll tie off the reporting, and then we'll talk about bill pay, but I wanted to mention too, there's some settings also around automation. So where are settings? Your edit preferences, where would that be, right? Gear icon. Accountant settings. And by the way, you guys have probably noticed my one-click toolbar up here. So create another Chrome user, you get a blank bookmarks bar. No matter what file I'm in, when I click preferences, that brings me to accountant settings. I mean, call it what you're used to. Items list to me. I mean, in QBO it's called products and services, but I grew up on the desktop, so I just call it items. So it's helpful for clients too coming over. You're customizing a top icon bar for them in Pro, right? So just do a similar thing in their Chrome. It'll just save them during the first few months trying to find things because it's different. All right, I go to advanced and you have this automation section. I wanted to mention, you can also set a default in QBO period for automatically invoice unbilled activity. This would be for Essentials and Plus. But know your client, right? I mean, is this something you want them to do? Because they're never going to be able to choose what billed activity goes to what invoice when you check this off until you uncheck it again, right? So, consider that. As well as this auto-apply credits. This would be credit AR to debit AR or auto-apply bill payments like vendor credits to, debit AP to credit AP. If you turn these on, it's going to apply whatever you have as a negative AR to the next invoice. So do you want control of that? The pre-fill forms with previously entered content. That's great, but it's not just for vendors. It's for any name. Right? So I usually keep that off. Basically, this is how I keep this. I think this is, and then maybe I'll do the unbilled activity if I don't really care. But you'll know, regarding automation, that's my point, is know your client regarding automation. and things like that. But definitely spend some time in the accountant settings, because that's your preferences and what's on, what's not. Right? Do you want to have two-sided items on? Do you want to tag a customer when you're on an expense to pass it through and make it billable? All that's in there too. Okay, reporting. Wanted to mention that. Let's go back to that P&L that I have, or sales by customer detail, fine. Click Customize, right? You're changing how the report looks. And the more detail-oriented report you have, the more detail-oriented it is, the more stuff you can. So I'm going to turn off memo description. Amount and balance is cool. There's some reports where you guys like to add debit and credit. It wouldn't be this one, but maybe I'll add sales rep as a column, and I can move it up to, you know, right after transaction type or something like that. So say I have the report the way I want it, right? And now I could even group by now sales rep if I want to. I don't think I have a lot of going on with sales reps, but see, most of them don't. But anyway, hey, now I know which ones I got to tag a sales rep. Okay, maybe this is an important report to your customer. Save the customization. One point, if you want to share it, and I mean literally put it in another QBO file, before you save it, copy the web address line. Just a little trick. Go into the next QBO file and paste it and save it there. That's how you share reports across company files. I mean, it's kind of one-to-one, right? I can't wait till we can like export customized reports out into a different file. But anyway, that's the workaround for now. I think I have that video on the site, right? So don't worry about that. A lot of this stuff is short videos on the product video site I have in the chat area of GoToWebinar. So make sure you bookmark that, please. But save the customization. Call it what you want. 7/13/17. And I can even share it with other, I can put it on like, I can add a group or something, right? Or share it with other users if I want to, that are going to want to see it. Because once I save it, I'm essentially memorizing the report, right? When you go to reports, you come into my custom reports, this will be the reports that I have. And what I can do is I can go to the group itself and set up a schedule to automatically send, you know, monthly to these people in the email. And it's not encrypted. It goes, it's a PDF attached to the email coming from QBO, right, from Intuit servers, not from your Outlook or something or your Gmail, but you could CC yourself, of course, which most people do. But if you're in a state that supports just sending reports out and they don't have to be encrypted, then you can customize reports, save them to a group, and then auto-send. That's the other kind of automation I wanted to mention that I typically forget, but that's in there, okay? So let's finish with this, the bill pay piece, because I know it's an important piece, and we've gone over that. Oh, by the way, you know, when you're sending your online invoices, I think I have a screen on this, maybe not, but there's a place where your customer or your client's customer can message them about the invoice, and you can track like when they viewed it as well. You know, see, like, yeah, here, you can attach things. This is like from your customer's perspective or the client if you've never seen this, where they click Pay Now. But you can see like a messaging feed and even attach things to the people who sent the invoice. And I can even see when somebody viewed something, right? So I find that to be really helpful as well. Okay, vendor ACH. I showed you the 3 access points to turn it on. You're not going to set it up for the client. They are going to. Because of the credit-related questions they'll be asked, they need to be the bank owner. You're not going to know what address they're at in 1988, okay? That's the family member, but then sure, set it up. But still, have it be the bank owner. And then that's what it'll say. You know, you'll have bill pay for QBO. It is powered by Bill.com. That's the pricing someone asked. $10 a month, $149 a mailed check, which takes about 7 to 10 days to get. Someone already tried to pay me that way. It's a little longer than ACH, right? ACH is 49 cents per payment, and I believe with the pricing structure, that's kind of where they're driving you to do anyway. This is what it'll look like. You go to Pay Bills online like you would go to Pay Bills, and you can set up bank transfers with a particular vendor, of course. Many are in the Bill.com network anyway, so it's super easy for that. You'll track status and confirmation. I can even see an image of the check in the bill pay tracker screen. So that's pretty cool. But it's basically a vendor ACH. And here's the main differences between the two, and then I'll get to that question. Bill.com, right? $30 a month plus transaction fees that'll match what we have too. I mean, it is Bill.com. It's just a really stripped down version. But they have approval and staging and security for the roles and users within Bill.com. They have a dashboard for accountants, right? So you can, if you're doing that, then I would just stay with the Bill.com platform. But if it's a client and all they want is the vendor ACH, right, then just they can sign up for the online bill pay, and that's really what it's supporting. And those are the fees. You know, but it's nice to be part of the larger biller network because it's really easy to invite vendors. Okay, I'm going to leave this on because we already went through that, the resource slide, while I answer this question. If you need a jet, go ahead. I'm going to stop the recording right after this question, and then you guys will move on. I know I told you it'd be about 1 or 2 after. Is there a way for a customer to see open unpaid balances if you send invoices via email? It's just going to be the open invoices they have, right? And they can pay up to the amount but not over. So yeah, they'll see. But the other way to do it, but you're sending like one invoice though, so not really. It's just going to be the invoice you're sending. It's kind of a one-to-one relationship. So Stephen, if they need to see like an account balance, if you will, that's going to be a statement. And you can create statements under the plus sign or from the sales window. And that will show like balance forward, payments already, etc. But when they click on online invoice, they're going to see that particular invoice and the pay and what they paid. Okay, thanks for that question though. So again, Pro Advisor tab in QBOA for certification, we looked at that. QBOblog.com, that's the QuickBooks online blog, which is, you know, we roll in enhancements monthly. The Product Specialist video site, that is in the chat area. Make sure you bookmark that. Everything I covered is covered there, with minus bill pay, because I have to use my own checking account, and I'm just, with so many people using my files to do training and stuff, I'm just leery someone's going to ding me for $1,000. So I probably will never have the online bill pay set up. But anyway, you'll see it when your client's set up. But all the other videos pretty much we have, and other tutorials that we have for your clients. There's actually this great, I wanted to show, for clients new to QBO, and then anybody has to leave split. I'm stopping the recording, but and then we'll call it. This QBO for your clients, Master the Basics. This is real-world training. I mean, they've done desktop training forever, and then QBO training as well. But literally, your clients, and it's from QuickBooks.com, but we're partnering with them. They can, you know, go to a live weekly QuickBooks webinars that are basically for beginner and intermediate users. You know, this is a great one. Get started in QBO for former desktop users, and they last an hour. Right? Good sense of humor and stuff, and keep it riveting. Just the basics, money in, money out, payroll, tying it all together, inventory, and then I like the tips and tricks one as well. So I like that too. See, I don't remember if you said or not, but when is the online bill pay available? So, Michelle, it's available now. However, you're right. It's a good question. Thank you for qualifying. It's actually not yet. We're rolling it out in waves. So if your client does not see it, under the plus sign, that's pretty much where I go to look, or click on expenses. If they don't see it, then email your account manager and they'll send you the direct link. Once your client's in QBO, they have to be in QBO, and they just paste it in the web address line, and it walks them through the setup. All right. Thanks again for your time today. You guys have a great day.